Let's try that. Is that better? I think that's better. Okay, we're rolling, folks. Here we are at Happynomics. This is a web class around one of the most powerful principles of positive psychology that I've ever encountered. And as we get started here, I invite you to consider, why are you here? Why are you here? And just think about the reasons that got you to this platform here today. Why are you here? Now, as you consider that, people come for a lot of different reasons. Some of you are here because you're a coach and you are excited to add a certification to the work that you do as a coach. Counselors, therapists come here for a similar reason, and some of them want to transition like I did. I'll share a little bit of my story with you today. Teachers, educators. I'm leaving in 1 week for Poland, where I will be doing a program for a group of educators, principals, teachers in Poland who want to use these positivity models in their educational careers. Parents or grandparents who are ready to establish a whole new culture in their family or in your extended relationships, wherever they are. Okay, so consider why you're here. And I've noticed that a lot of folks feel called to a higher purpose, a higher calling. Is that you? Do you know that there's more that you could or maybe even should be doing to fulfill that calling, maybe that divine calling that you have? Consider that, will you? Why are you here? Now, I have promised a few things. Here's how we're going to roll. I'm going to share a little bit about why I'm here first, and then we're going to get into the model that I call Happynomics. This is a model of positive psychology that I consider to be graduate level positive psychology. So be ready to take notes. We're going to move fast. And then after that, I am going to share with you how you can become a certified positivity practitioner. And you know, when you attend a free webinar, that there's going to be some kind of an offer. And I'm not going to disappoint you. Now, I know some of you may not have come for that, and you can turn it off and leave at that point if you want. But if it's for you, you'll want to listen in to see how you can become a certified positivity practitioner. I've got a special offer for those of you who are attending here live. So let's roll, shall we? I would love to share with you first why I'm here. So as we go back to the visuals, there was a time, come with me about 2 decades back, when I was facing a very challenging point in my career. In my book, Pathological Positivity, the first chapter is called Lightning Strikes. And it's when I was going along, minding my own business, and zap, out of nowhere, kapow, I'm struck by this thunderous bolt of lightning. What it was an economic crisis that eventually culminated in a bankruptcy. Well, it was during this time that I had a chance to attend an event with this man. This is Dr. Jeff McGee. He's a psychologist. He's a very prominent consulting psychologist. He teaches on leadership and leadership development. And Dr. McGee was presenting at the conference, but I had an opportunity to sit at a dinner table with Dr. Jeffrey McGee. It was just me and about 6 other people at this table with Dr. McGee, and we each got to share with him what was going on in our business and get input from this sagely guru, this brilliant psychologist. And I have to pause for just a minute and tell you something else about this. It was a stretch for me to get there. Okay, remember, I'm going through an economic challenge at the time that was kicking my trash. I was heading for a bankruptcy. And I just told you I attended this event. Okay, it was a 3-day event in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. I had to come up with the registration fee. I had to come up with a hotel payment to be there. I had to come up with the travel expenses to get myself to Lake Tahoe. It was a stretch for me. And there was a little story in my head that I couldn't afford it. And when you look at my financials, it's like, yeah, dude, you can't afford that. But I was committed. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how when you're committed, you handle the considerations. And I got to do that as I was handling the considerations to get myself to Lake Tahoe, to be in the room, because I knew I needed to be in the room and interact with the people who were going to be there. And I was confident that I would obtain knowledge, support, resources, whatever I needed to move out of that place of stuckness that I was in. And I think it was important to acknowledge that to you. It was a stretch for me to get there. And I got myself in the room. So back to the table with Dr. McGee. Jeff is listening as I share all of my woes around this business collapsing. And the context was I was busy. Okay, I was a busy psychologist. I had an outpatient psychotherapy practice where I was seeing client after client, day after day, hour after hour, and I was booked out solid for 5 months. You couldn't even get an appointment with me. In these 5 months, I had a waiting list, and I had negative cash flow for 2 quarters in a row. Now, I don't know what kind of math you do, but I figured I can't sustain that. And I shared all of this with Dr. McGee, this brilliant consulting psychologist. He's going to help me figure out how I'm going to turn all of this around. And after he listened intently to what I had to share, Dr. McGee leaned forward on the table, and with an expression very similar to the one you see in this picture of him, he said this: "Paul, you suck." And I'm like, what? Oh, huh? I suck? That's all you got? Thank you very much. I love you too. And then he clarified, he said, I mean that in the most supportive way. What I mean is that you suck resources. You are consuming more than you produce, as evidenced by your financials. You suck. Now that was profound and somewhat helpful. But you know, in the same 3-day event, I got to meet this lady. This is Lisa Nichols. This brilliant woman I first was introduced to through a movie that came out a couple of decades ago called The Secret, based on a book by Rhonda Byrne. And Lisa was featured in that book, but she was one of the speakers at this conference. And she gave me the gift because I was in the room, because I handled the considerations. She gave me the gift of a vision that it's not about me. As she guided us through some imagery where I had the privilege of seeing in my mind's eye hundreds, even thousands of people who were profoundly grateful because of the way I had helped them to save and enrich their 7 key relationships. I got to see that. And I realized it was not about me. That my being stuck, yes, was inconvenient to me, but it was also stopping me from blessing their lives. Lisa turned my mind on to that. How amazing is that? At the same conference, I got to meet Mary Louise Zeller, who became a very dear friend of mine over the ensuing years. Mary Louise, in her early 80s now, is a 6th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. This grandma can kick you to next Wednesday. And she said something that so profoundly stuck with me. My job as a psychologist is to illuminate the obvious. which is really cool. I get paid to tell people things they already know and to show them things that they already see. But there's a lot of obvious things that are unnoticed. And once they're called to our attention, it's like, oh, it's like the feeling of your shirt on your body right now. Can you feel it? Oh, now you can, now that I've called it to your attention. It's that kind of a thing. And what Mary Louise said to me that stuck with me and illuminated the obvious, she said this: the troops aren't coming. I'm going to let that sink in for just a minute. The troops aren't coming. We are the troops. When Mary Louise told me that, for the first time, probably in the whole course of this ordeal I was going through at the time, for the first time, I saw myself as a victim. A victim. You know, cowering in the corner, waiting for the troops to come, waiting for someone to ride in and rescue me. And how often do we do that? You know, at the time, a friend of mine had actually given me a copy of an audiobook called The Richest Man in Babylon. And this friend knew what I was going through as well and wanted to share with me a resource that he had found so helpful. And as I'm listening to this audiobook by a wise, sagely guru of personal finance, George Clason, who wrote the book, he kept saying, a portion of everything you make is yours to keep, meaning you've got to pay yourself. Yeah, you're paying all your bills and stuff, but you got to pay yourself first. You have to have some plan to do that. And I remember thinking this. This was my thought. Oh, you know, that's really good advice. As soon as I'm doing a little better financially, I'm going to start doing that. Okay, did you hear it before I did? How destructively prideful is that? Essentially, what I'm saying is, oh, Mr. Clason, wise guru of personal finance, as soon as I figure out through my own staggering brilliance how to do better financially, then, oh wise master, will I follow your advice and counsel. That is so prideful. And it occurred to me that it was prideful. I'm so glad that I saw it. It stung a little bit because I don't want to be a prideful person. But it opened up my eyes to something that I hadn't seen before that. That this is enormously important, to be able to be humble enough to learn from those who have reasons to know and who have our best interest at heart. Why did he write that book to start with? Because he wanted to help people like me to do better financially. And yet I'm saying, oh, you know what? As soon as I'm doing better financially, then I'll come and follow your program, your advice. Prideful. You know, one of my clients said years ago, and I really appreciated this, he said, Dr. Paul, there's two kinds of people on this planet. And I'm a psychologist. I'm like, tell me, I want to know, right? He said, there are those who are humble, and there are those who are about to be. Can you relate to this? Because I think either we choose to be humble or our circumstances humble us. Either way, we're going to get there. And my circumstances had humbled me to the point where I was realizing I got to have some help, right? That's why I stretched. That's why I handled the considerations and got myself in the room with these brilliant people. There's two others that I want to share with you because this is a significant part of the story. And there are so many more mentors and coaches and people in my life who made a difference. But as it relates to this particular story, the next one I want to share with you is Les McGuire. As my financial advisor, Les knew what I was going through. He was trying to help me get to a point where I was financially solvent and profitable. And he said this, Dr. Paul, you got to create more value for more people. And honestly, it ticked me off a little bit because I'm doing good work. My clients appreciate me. We're making a difference. We're saving and enriching key relationships day in and day out. And he's like, yeah, I get that. I don't question that at all. You're doing good work. What you need to do is create more value for more people. I didn't even know how I was going to do that at the time. To make a longer story short, I left the tribe of traditional psychotherapy and entered the world of positive psychology coaching, personal, life, professional, and family development coaching based on principles of positive psychology. That's about 10 years that story unfolded. Now, fast forward with me to October of 2017. I'm sitting in a Bravenel Hall in Salt Lake City, and I'm listening to this brilliant mentor, another teacher who showed up in my life and gave me exactly what I needed at exactly the moment that I needed it. Sanjay Gupta is a brilliant neurosurgeon and correspondent for CNN. So CNN sends this neurosurgeon into war zones and earthquakes and hurricanes, to report back on health-related issues. He was in Puerto Rico that morning after that devastating hurricane came through. Do you remember that in 2017? And he was in Puerto Rico that morning. He was on the stage in a Bravenel Hall that night talking to us. That's how fresh it was for him. And someone during the Q&A asked, what is the most disturbing thing that you've ever encountered? Now, that's a big question for a guy who does the things that Dr. Sanjay Gupta does. But he didn't even hesitate. He said it's the unnecessary death. And then he went on to clarify. He said, I get it. People are going to die in a hurricane. It's part of the deal. What's tragic is everybody who's dying after the fact because they don't have access to food, water, medical supplies, the things they need to survive. And the disturbing part, all of those things exist in containers, on ships, in the port, on the island. But there's no distribution process to get it to the people who desperately need it. That's what's the most disturbing thing. And after I heard that, I launched a YouTube channel. It's called Live on Purpose TV. Some of you are watching live stream right now on Live on Purpose TV. This is where it started. And this is why I'm here. I know that the principles, the models that we talk about here at Live on Purpose save lives. And not only that, they save and enrich key relationships. There's 7 of them. I know that this is true. I have seen it through personal observation over about 30 years now of clinical experience. They save lives. Where's the distribution? In a few minutes, after I share the Happynomics model with you, I'm going to tell you how you can become a certified positivity practitioner. You are the distribution channels. And there are people who desperately need it. So would you keep that in mind for a minute? That is why I'm here. Now, I could tell you more about that story, and I probably will at some point, but I want to get to why we gathered here today, and that is to learn the Happynomics model. Happynomics, let's pull up the visuals again so that I can bring you up to speed with this. Oh, and before I leave this slide, just consider, who are your mentors? Who are your teachers who showed up just at the right time? What have you done to courageously stretch and put yourself in the room where you can interact with them? Think about your own story along those lines too, because this is our story with my details. This is our story with my details. And we're all at some point in that journey. So I thankfully acknowledge these mentors and other powerful coaches and mentors that I've had over the years, including my current ones, as we go on to this model. Okay, Robert Kiyosaki, another teacher and mentor and guru around personal finance. In his book, this is a best-selling book, like a #1 New York Times best-selling book, and he was there for years on the New York Times bestseller list. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I mention him because the structure of this model that I'm going to share with you is the one that Robert Kiyosaki teaches in his book on personal finance. Now, what does personal finance have to do with psychology? Stay tuned. It has everything to do with it. What Kiyosaki taught is that there are two documents you need to understand. There's your income statement and your balance sheet. Now, the income statement lists all of your income and your expenses. Okay, the balance sheet lists all of your assets and your liabilities. And you need to know how these interact. In his definition, it was fairly simple. Assets put money into your pocket. Assets create income. Okay, liabilities create expenses. Takes money out of your pocket. That's a pretty simple definition. It's going to be important when we come to a different kind of value. But let's stay on property value for a minute. The way Robert Kiyosaki teaches it. Let's look at an example. On your balance sheet, you might have a property. Okay, let's say this is a rental property. Maybe you own a duplex or an apartment building or something like that. Okay, clearly an asset. Now, you don't have an asset without a corresponding liability. So what's the liability? Well, you picked up a loan or a mortgage in order to obtain that property. So this is an example, all right? You got the asset, you got the liability. Now the asset puts money into your pocket. In this case, it's in the form of rent. So people move into your duplex and pay you every month to live there. Income. But every month, the bank is expecting a payment on that mortgage, that loan that you took out to acquire the property. So you've got income and you've got expense. What is the goal? Just consider, what is the goal here? Well, obviously, it's to have more income than expense, right? This is what we call profit, positive cash flow. You want more coming in than what is going out. Pretty simple. You'd think I would have known that as I was going into my bankruptcy. Well, I did know that at some level, but my situation was that the expenses were outpacing the income. And in that case, that's called negative cash flow. It's also called loss. That's where more is going out than what's coming in. You can't sustain this. Trust me, okay, somebody who's been through a bankruptcy. Well, what's your goal down on the balance sheet? You want your assets to have greater value than your liabilities. And when that is true, we call that equity. So think about the rental property, for example. Let's say that you owe 300,000 on it, but it's worth 500,000. We would say that you have 200,000 in equity, okay? Because it's worth more than you owe. Your asset is greater value than your liability. What if it's the other way around? If your liabilities exceed your assets in value, we call that debt. All right. Some people call it negative equity, or we say that we're upside down. It's kind of like when you buy a new car, and as soon as you drive it off the lot, you can't sell it for as much as you just paid. Right. So we're upside down in it. It's a debt position. Now, I share this with you to establish a foundation, because this model is very useful when it comes to discussing another kind of value. And here's where I want to go with this. I read a book years ago. Les McGuire, one of the people that I just showed you on that previous slide, encouraged me to read a book called The Economics of Life Insurance. Woohoo! Does that sound fun? Let me read that one. Yeah, engaging, right? Not really. It was written about 100 years ago by Solomon Hubner, who is known as the father of modern life insurance policies. He's the guy that came up with this idea, basically, that your human life has an economic value, and there are companies who are willing to pay you for that. What is your life worth to you? Well, there's no dollar amount, right, that you'd trade it for, because as soon as you trade your life, then you can't use the dollars anyway. But the insurance companies are willing to put an economic value on your life. I'm just going to let that bother you for a minute, because your life is priceless, right? It's invaluable to you. But the point is, it does have economic value to others. Let me say that again. Your life is invaluable to you, okay? But it does have an economic value to others. So what we're going to talk about next is human life value, not property value, not money and duplexes. Human life value. This is the value that is inherent inside of you. This is not what you have, it's who you are. Okay, so we're going to use the same structure that we got from Robert Kiyosaki to talk about this. Let's go back to the model. Human life value has the same elements. We'll talk about it in the same way. You have an income statement where there's income and expense, and you have a balance sheet where we have assets and liabilities. Let's start with the balance sheet, because this is the easiest one to understand when it comes to human life value. You have assets built in to who you are. You have, here's the most obvious example, you have strengths, don't you? Yes, you do. Now, you're also painfully aware that you have weaknesses. Welcome to Earth. That's how we roll here. And it's not bad news. It's just part of your balance sheet. And just as an aside here, what is your goal? Like, back on the property value balance sheet, what is your goal? To get rid of your liabilities? Can you? Well, you can pay off a loan, right? So once you pay off the loan, does that mean you no longer have any liability on that property? No, it doesn't mean that. You've still got maintenance and taxes and upkeep. It's called stewardship. Anytime you own an asset, you have liabilities, also known as your stewardship or your responsibility to take care of the asset. So it's not just about having a loan, it's about having a responsibility for that asset. Now, when you understand that, the goal is not to get rid of your liabilities. The goal is to pay your expenses, because it's paying your expenses that allows you to take care of your liabilities in a way that allows you to continue to control your assets. You with me? Keep that in mind, because it's the same in our human life value. We are not trying to get rid of our liabilities. I don't think we can. Have you noticed that your weaknesses tend to just be there? As much as you've worked on them over the years, they don't go away. Now, you can pay down the loan, right? You can make progress with your liabilities, but as long as you have an asset, you will have a liability, the corresponding liability. You have knowledge. That is an asset. You know stuff. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't know. You've got ignorance too. And that's okay. Sometimes we beat ourselves up for having these liabilities. Guess what? It's permanent. You always get to have liabilities. You have abilities to do things and skills, right? Talents. You also have disabilities. You have this amazing body. Wow, what a huge asset that is. And that body happens to be mortal, meaning that it wears out or it gets hurt or it gets old or it dies. And spoiler alert, nobody gets out of this alive. Mortality is a huge liability. Okay, how are we doing on the balance sheet here? Are you noticing it? I'm inviting you to see that you've got a human life value balance sheet. You've got strengths, you've got weaknesses, you've got knowledge, you've got ignorance, you've got abilities, you've got disabilities. You've got a body and a life, and that body and life are mortal. Okay, connect with that for a minute. You get both. You will always have both. What's our goal? To get rid of our liabilities? No, I don't think that's possible. It's to pay our expenses. If you don't pay your expenses, your liabilities will overwhelm you and you'll lose your assets. Remember, bankruptcy. If you don't pay your expenses, your liabilities will overwhelm you and you'll lose your assets. Listen to where I'm coming from here. This is not trite, fluffy stuff. This is my life. This is our story with my details. Are you with me? Okay, so it will be really important to learn what are human life value expenses and what are human life value income. All right, now we're going to play a little game. Those of you who are here live, registered attendees on Zoom, will you please go to your chat? There's a blue button there. Once you open your chat, there's a blue button that says everyone or hosts and panelists. Select everyone, okay, so that everybody can see what's going to happen here, because I'm going to have you help with this next part. Are you ready? Please have your chat ready and open. All right, now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share a number of common human activities that are either income or expense. Income or expense. And all you're going to do in the chat, and I'll count you down, okay, because I want everybody to enter it at the same time. You'll type either an I or an E, or you can write out income or expense if you want to. But you're going to put what you think that activity is, and then wait until I count you down. We'll say 3, 2, 1, enter, and then you're going to enter it into the chat. Okay, you'll hit enter, and then we'll see everybody's response all at the same time. Are you down? Okay, let's play. I'm going to bring up the module. And those of you who are watching live streaming on YouTube, you can go ahead and do it in the comments. I'm just not available to monitor that right now, but play along with us if you're watching the live stream on YouTube. Okay, back to the model. Now, a quick reminder before I start the quiz. You ready? Quick reminder. Assets create income. Liabilities create expenses. That'll be an important thing to remember as you're taking the quiz. All right, you ready? Go to the chat, and I want you to type in income or expense for this one. We're going to start with my favorite. One of my favorites, learning. Learning. Where you get, and don't hit enter yet, just hold it. Okay, some of you are just really excited. Type it in, but don't hit enter until I say, I can't count you down. Okay, so when we learn things, when we get to go to school or sit in a class or being here, learning, okay, income or expense, put it in the chat. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, here we go. All right, so I've got expense, income, both. Income, expense, expense, income, expense. Oh boy. Okay, unfortunately, we do not have a high level of agreement here. Some of you are putting income, some of you are putting expense. Somebody put both. Meredith. Okay. It's not both. It is, in fact, dun, 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 expense. So those of you who put expense, big cheer, nice job, you got it. Now, why is it an expense? And Langston, you're saying expense because of student loans. Well, you have to pay sometimes for your learning. That's not what makes it an expense. What is it in your human life value balance sheet that creates the need for learning? And you're saying it takes time, it's time and cost. Yes, that is true as well. But all of these activities will take your time and effort. Okay. Ignorance. There you go. Okay, now you're getting it. Phil, Susie, Sarah, you guys got it. Ignorance is a liability. Ignorance creates a need for learning. So learning is the expense that you pay for your ignorance. You're taking care of that liability, which allows you to control an asset. That asset is knowledge, which allows you to teach. Now I have to take another little side trip here, because in a few minutes when I talk to you about being a positivity practitioner, there are two kinds of learning. There's learning to know, and there's learning to do. And learning to know is an expense. Learning to do is also an expense, but the doing part is income. So just think about that for a minute. All right, let's go back to our quiz. Let's do the next one. Okay, you did okay. I mean, some of you got it. Some of you were way off. All right, here's the next one. How about serving others? No, don't hit enter yet. Just put income or expense into the chat. Serving others. Serving others. Income or expense. In 3, 2, 1, enter. All right, here we go. Income, expense, income, 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 expense, and income, expense, income. Okay, we're doing a little better now. And you are correct. Those of you who said income, you are correct. Now, there were a few people who still said expense, but why can we serve others? Because we have strength and knowledge and ability to serve them, right? They have some weakness or lack or need that creates a need for them to be served, which is expense. Okay, so remember, this ties to our assets and our liabilities. So our assets create income, our skills and knowledge and abilities allow us to serve others. And because we are lacking and we have needs and weaknesses, we need to be served sometimes. So that's an expense. It comes from our liabilities. Now, notice this. One person's income is another person's expense. It's always that way because it has to do with an exchange of value. Okay, let's do one more. You ready for one more? Be ready in the chat. Type it in. Don't hit enter until I count you down. All right, here we go. The next one is consuming. Consuming. So it's when you eat up something. Well, even eating is consuming. But when you purchase something at the store and you're a consumer of a product or consuming, okay? Income or expense in 3, 2, 1, enter. All right, we've got income, expense, expense, both income, expense. Oh man, we're getting, okay, we got a lot of people saying expense. There's still quite a few saying income. Now, this is interesting because consuming, which includes receiving, feels like we're gaining something, feels like income. But receiving and consuming are both expense. Why? Why do we consume? Because we have a need. We have a lack. We have a deficit. We're trying to fill up a hole. What about producing? Producing is the income. Okay, I need to clarify something, because does this feel a little backwards? In some ways, it does, right? Remember, I told you this is graduate level positive psychology. It feels backwards because we're used to thinking of these terms, income and expense, in terms of property value, including money. And income, we even call it income. It comes into me, like when I consume something or I receive something. But in property value, what is it that you're receiving as income? What is it that you're receiving as income? It's money. Why would you ever receive money? You receive money because a product or a service went out from you. You created value. You produced something of value. It went out from you. And then the money came in as a receipt. The value flows from you. That's income. In expense, property value, what is it that leaves us when we have an expense? It's money. Why would money ever leave you? Because you received or consumed some kind of value, a product or a service. This is so important, because when you get this, you get that. The money is a receipt for the value. Understanding the flow of the value helps you to understand where the money comes from. Income is not money. Income is the production of value for which you receive money as a receipt. And expense is the same way. The money that leaves you is simply a receipt for the value that you received or consumed. This is huge when it comes to understanding how economics is tied to our happiness. Now let's go back to that, because here's where it gets really exciting. As if it's not exciting enough, right? You guys having fun? I'm geeking out on this a little bit, but bear with me. What is the goal? Do you remember the goals before? You want to have profit and you want to be in an equity position, right? So in human life value, let's start on the balance sheet. If your liabilities exceed your assets, that's a condition that we call captivity, also known as being stuck. And you guys, I was stuck. I was stuck in the muck when I had that lightning strike and I went through that bankruptcy. What is it that is creating the captivity for you? Where is it that you're saying I can't because? Well, that's being stuck, right? So the thing about human life value, though, is that we don't have to purchase our assets. They're given to us. It's like part of our design. In property value, we have to go buy them. The way we can make sure our assets exceed our liabilities is through our focus. What we focus on, we feel. What we think about, we bring about. You've already got the assets. How much time, energy, your precious life energy are you spending on your liabilities as opposed to your assets? How much do you think about what you can't do as opposed to what you can do? How much do you think I can't rather than how can I? Your focus determines your position of liberty. And that allows you to show up and create the positive flow. If we've got a negative flow, if our expenses exceed our income, that is a human condition that we call misery. I like the way Tim Hansel put this. He said, pain is inevitable. Misery is optional. because it depends on how much we're consuming versus producing. When we produce more than we consume, when our income exceeds our expenses, that is a condition known as happiness. This, my friends, is Happynomics. Now, as I pause for just a moment to let that sink in for a minute, I'm taking you fairly quickly through a very powerful model that is part of your positivity practitioner certification should you choose to jump in. We're going to do a deep dive on this. But the thing that I wanted to say before we leave this, the Happynomics model, this shows us what we've known for years in psychology is that there is a correlation between happiness and economic success. And we got it backwards for so many years because we were too focused on the money. Remember, money is just the receipt for the value. The actual flow of the value is what we need to focus on. And so we got it backwards for years when we thought, oh, therefore, when we are economically successful, we will be happy. How often do you tell yourself, once I'm doing better financially, then I will do that thing that I know I'm called to do? Just like me reading that book from George Clason. Once I'm doing better financially, then I'll follow your wise advice. It's backwards. What we know now is that happiness gives rise to and creates the economic success. It's more accurate to say when we are happy, then we will be financially successful. And the finances is only because of understanding the human life value, where you serve more than you're being served, where you produce more than you consume, so that you don't suck. Now, we could do a full training on that and get into it farther, but I promised that I would share with you. And do I have your permission to share with you what it would look like to become a certified positivity practitioner? And remember, the reason that I'm here is because we have to have distribution channels for these principles to get into the hearts and hands and minds of those who desperately need it. And you are uniquely designed to do some level of that. You can touch people that I can't reach. Just consider that as well, okay? What would happen if I could help you be empowered to serve them, that's income for you, in some big ways? This webinar, by the way, income or expense? Expense. For you, I know you didn't pay anything to be here. It's expense for you because you're learning, and learning is expense. Income for me. And you didn't pay me anything. I am serving you. I am teaching you. The value is flowing from me, so it's income for me. When we get really good at creating value for people, the money shows up. Okay, there's some strategic side effects there that create the economic expense. So let me share with you just for a minute, if you would consider, what would it be like? Just imagine what it would be like to have the kind of support or knowledge or connections that would allow you to really step up and fulfill what you feel called to do. To get out of your own way. What we've put together for you in the Positivity Practitioner Certification, which is housed at Live on Purpose Central. Now, Live on Purpose Central is my membership site. Some of you, many of you, I'm seeing some of the names of you who are attending are already members there. And in fact, some of you are certified positivity practitioners already. Part of what you get there is the Positivity Practitioners portal when you step into the certification track. And what we have for you is credibility. Those of you who are coaches, for example, anybody can hang up their shingle as a life coach. What differentiates you from others? And a certification is one of those things that can bring that credibility, including the models, the powerful positive psychology models that that are part of the program. Confidence. What if you really felt confident to move forward with your next steps? The support that you need through trainings, coachings, masterminds, a platform for collaboration. This is what we have put together for you. Now, think about this for a minute. You have a lot of good reasons for being here, and they're not all about you. I asked you earlier to commit to something, okay, to take whatever it is from this presentation today to move forward powerfully with your own calling. And I'm here to support you, but you're the one with the calling. Some, just before they say yes, some people think that it costs too much. I am going to blow that out of the water for you today, okay? Because there is enormous value here, and it's affordable. I'm going to share that with you because you're wondering, how much does it cost, Dr. Ball? I'm going to tell you. Or that they don't have the time. It's always a lie. Everyone has exactly the same amount of time. As far as we measure it, it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. I don't have any more than you or any less. The question is, how are we spending it? And there's a lot of traps out there. Or that they've tried everything and it hasn't worked. No, you haven't. You haven't tried everything. I thought I had tried everything when I went to Lake Tahoe and met 3 people who changed the trajectory of my career. And many since then who also have. We have to be humble enough to get in the room and learn what we didn't know we didn't know. Now, you felt a little bit of hope today, right? What would it be like if you could get more than that? In the Positivity Practitioners package, there are several features, and I'm just going to hit these quickly. The first one, probably most important one, is a 3-day intensive Train the Trainer event that will be happening in August 14th through the 16th. I expect everyone who enrolls to be fully present. This is a virtual event. I am carving out time on my schedule to be fully present because I am personally doing the training. I have some guest speakers that come in and help. But it will be from 8 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. every day, all 3 days. And it's virtual. You don't have to get on a plane. But I want you to plan it as if you were going to be in the room. Okay, this is not the kind of thing where you multitask. Fully present and engaged. You will have, as part of this, license to use the powerful models that I've developed. These are copyrighted models, but I don't want to keep them on my shelf if I can put them in your hands and get them into the lives of the people who actually need them. You are the distribution process. You'll have full access for a year, and that includes full membership at Live on Purpose Central, plus the Positivity Practitioners portal, where we will have monthly training and coaching calls, monthly peer mastermind groups, mentoring and collaboration. And then I've added this piece because it's so much fun. You get 5 seats to Live on Purpose Central. This is the membership that I charge $67 a month for. And you get 5 seats to use as you see fit. You can use them with your family, with your team, if you're a leader in a work setting or in a volunteer position with your community or your church. You can put clients in there that you're charging for a coaching package and you give them access as an add-on. This is a way we get to collaborate moving forward. Okay, now what is the value of that? Really, when you add it all up, the value exceeds $15,000. And it is worth every bit of that. Last year, we sold this program for $4,500. And because of my own coaching, I believe this. Coaches need coaches. And I'm working with my coach currently on developing business models that make this more accessible to more people. And so I wanted to make it even more affordable. Your investment is under $3,000. All right, $29.97 is the price that we have set for your investment to get into the Certified Positivity Practitioner program. And we can break that into 3 different payments for you over 3 months. But wait, There's more. I've been practicing doing the infomercial, you guys. How did I do it? Did I rush it? Was it okay? There's more. We're going to take off an additional $500 for anyone who registers within the next 24 hours. Okay, so your investment comes to $24.97. Why would I do that? I told you why I'm here. For me, it is not about the money. I want to make this as affordable as possible for you, because you are the distribution channel to get these principles out to the people who really need them. All right. And it might be in your own family. It might be with clients or masses of people on the internet. I don't know. I want to put it into your hands. And my job as your coach is to help you get out of your own way and make decisions that you already know you want to do, but you've got all kinds of head trash going on around it. Okay, have you noticed that? And so I'm adding one more bonus. And I didn't even tell the team I was going to do this, but I'm having fun. So anyone who signs up in the next 15 minutes, and you know what, I'm even going to extend that till, after we're done with the webinar, because I want to stick around for a few minutes and answer your questions. I'm going to add a private one-on-one session with me. I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore. I don't know if you knew this. I used to have a full practice seeing clients every day. I do not do one-on-one personal coaching anymore. It's all group coaching there at Live on Purpose Central and in the Positivity Practitioners portal, except with my inner circle clients. They still have access to my calendar to schedule private sessions. I'm offering one of those for anybody who signs up today, okay, in the next few minutes. If you know this is right for you, then handle it. I forgot to ask something earlier. How committed are you? And I don't mean how committed are you to come into my program. Look, that's totally up to you. And I've already got enough people in this class that we're going to have a great experience. Would welcome you, but we don't need you there. If it's the right fit for you, then get yourself in the room, handle the considerations, and give yourself the gift of investing in yourself. I shared with you how I did that, and it has made all of the difference. And I've got other stories since then where I continue to courageously put myself in the room and together with the people that I know can help to move me forward with that. And I would invite you to consider, how committed are you to your mission? 1 to 10. It's not a 0 because you wouldn't be here if it were a 0. 1 to 10. How committed are you? And just see what your number is. It's really common for people to come up with like a 7 or 8. One of my coaches told me recently a 9 is just a 1 in disguise. And that tipped me over a little bit because I may have given her a 9. I don't know. And she said, commitment is one thing. Considerations is another. And if you're fully committed, if you're a 10, and she also told me I only work with 10s. And I'm like, I changed my number because I knew I needed to work with her. And I changed my number. I'm a 10. I'm a 10. It's just that. And then whatever your brain gives you, what are the considerations? I've already got something scheduled that week in August. I have my money committed to other things right now. Whatever it is, okay, those are all considerations. If you are committed, then handle the considerations. I promise that down the road, you will thank yourself. As I was preparing for this conversation with you today, I was choking up as I put that first slide together, with some of those mentors and teachers that showed up for me. And I was feeling so grateful that me then was willing to be so courageous to stretch and handle the considerations and get myself in the room, because me now is so grateful for that choice. Think of yourself in the future. What would your future self want you to do right now? And whatever that answer is, I honor your journey, okay? I'm not here to sell as much as I am to make available. And we have created a community with this certified positivity practitioner community that is so powerful. So will you jump in? I noticed Jeff put into the chat there a clickable link that will get you to the early bird, the $500 discount version, and you'll see a countdown there because it will expire. And when it expires, it will forward you to the full price. You are welcome to come in at the full price. I don't have any problem with that. I know how to use that extra $500. But if you want to get that special pricing, click on it now. Now is the time to make that decision. I'm not saying that to create pressure. I'm saying that to help you get out of your own way. Okay. I think as positivity practitioners, we get to be professional mind make-uppers, right? Because we all get in our own way. I'm so grateful to my coaches who have helped me to take courageous action in the past. I just want to say I'm honored to be on your team. And if this is a good fit for you, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the room. I'm going to take a few minutes now. I know we're at the top of the hour, and if you need to sign off, then go with our blessings. And if you want to stick around, those of you who are here live, I would be happy to take a few questions before we wrap up. And I see, let's see, I see a hand up by Sarah. Sarah, do you want to come and talk to me? I'm going to give you an invitation to come in. And when you get in, you can turn on your camera and your microphone and we'll talk. Nope, that was declined. So maybe we got past that. Okay, Sarah, you can let me know if you want to come in. Just raise your hand again and I'll get you back in. Let's see, in your course, this is Joanne. In your course, does it go over how to build a business or is it just coaching techniques? It's both of those things plus a whole lot more. The way I would describe the positivity practitioner curriculum, primarily it's personal development. Secondarily, it's professional development. And so we do go over business building. There's a simple business model that I train and coach on that I got from my coaches. I am passing along everything that I'm getting in the coaching that I'm paying some big dollars for to you. I'm sharing it with you. My coaching puts me in position to serve you better. So we do go over how to build a business, how to get your first client, how to move clients through a funnel sequence. And then we do go over coaching techniques, which can be used if you're a coach or a counselor, a therapist. That's obvious. You want to have those coaching skills and techniques. But what about parents? And what about team leaders? And what about team members on groups at work or in the community? These techniques are applicable. This might help too, Joanne. I think about our 7 key relationships, and it wasn't the purpose of this webinar to go over those, but really quickly, they are your creator, yourself, your spouse, your children, your extended family, other people, and things. And it's really handy that it takes 7 fingers to do this, because on the first hand, as you create value for these 5 key relationships, there's no economic exchange. You get a direct value through the loving relationships that you have with your family and your spouse and your creator. Okay. There's nobody bills anybody. There's no checks. When we start creating value for people outside of our inner circle over here, that's when we change property and money in order to have receipts for the value that's created. So the business models are applicable over on this hand, but a lot of the people in our community are focused on this hand. So there's been a misconception in the past that this is a coach certification program, and a coach really benefits from this certification because it sets them apart from other coaches and gives them some powerful tools and models to use with their clients. But the coaching is over here. Okay, so there are more important key relationships. We apply it across all 7 of our key relationships. So hopefully that helps, Joanne. Sarah says, oops, not sure what that was for. But it's funny. All right. Any other questions you guys coming up for you? Oh, almost forgot. I did have some other questions. I just need to pull them up on a different screen. I have from Ned. I sent you a query too about insight needed as how to motivate myself to be grateful in difficult situations. Let's see. My difficulty is comparatively minor as yours is with your son. Oh, you know what, Ned? I think you're talking about our masterclass on Face Your Giants, right? How can I grow in this area separately? Let's see. You know what, Ned? I think I'm going to defer that to ask Dr. Paul. That might be a more appropriate venue for that question. Let me see what Sophie had to say. In everyday life, how can we ensure our comments, questions, and behaviors are perceived as positive? Sometimes what we think is neutral might be taken negatively by others. So, what exactly defines something as positive? Sophie, interesting question. We can't ensure that other people perceive things in any particular way. That's up to them. We do have some control over how we show up and how we couch it and what language or wording we use and the timing. So all of those things can make a difference. Incidentally, in the certification program, we go into things like this quite a bit, how to actually teach and to implement these models of positivity in specific circumstances. And Ned, I think your question had to do with some circumstances too. This is where coaching is so valuable because we can talk about the principles and the models all day long, including the one we talked about today, Happynomics, and then applying those models specifically to certain circumstances or to where we are at different points in our lives or in our key relationships. That's where the coaching becomes so valuable. And when I say coaching, remember, I don't just mean, life coaches who have a practice doing this. I mean the coaching that we can do within our own families too, or within our teams. So I'm using that term fairly generally. I think, Sophie, in answer to your question, I'm convinced that we can't control others' perceptions. They're going to see it however they're going to see it. And the way we approach it can make a big difference. I read a book recently called The Anatomy of Peace. It's by the Arbinger Institute. And in this book, it really focuses on where your heart is. Is your heart at war or is your heart at peace? And that can be with another person or with a circumstance. And where our heart is has a profound effect on how the other people, the other humans involved, perceive us. That's an interesting idea. So we can check our own heart. Is my own heart at peace? Because if my own heart is at peace, that's the best shot I have of instilling that kind of perception in other people, although they are responsible for their own perceptions. Now we can have some more fun with that. Okay, I think we are probably there. I'm just checking. I don't see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So I think we're wrapping up. Hey, you guys, thank you for being here. I invite you to consider joining our positivity practitioner community. One thing I didn't mention, if you would like to talk with a member of our team about that, there's another link. You can go to go.positivitypractitioner.com, same as the one that Jeff put into the chat, but do /schedule. That will get you onto the calendar. Thank you, Jeff, for putting that in the chat as well, where you can schedule a time to visit with a member of our team about maybe handling your considerations. You might have some considerations that you want a little bit of help with. Remember, on the tuition, there is a 3-month payment option, and that makes it a little more doable for some folks. Go get on a call with a member of our team if you've got additional questions or you need some help with that. And those of you who just came to learn about Happynomics and you're probably not going to follow up to be practitioners, glad you're here too. there might come a time in the future when you're ready to take that step. And we honor your journey. We're here for you, and just glad